Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jacob Restituto, and I have a very special guest, a guest that I'm really looking forward to having a great conversation with. We have Maryanne J. George here on the channel, actually. Do you prefer this?
Yeah.
Do you have a preference? Welcome to the
Oh, I
channel.
don't care.
I appreciate you
Yeah, I
taking the
don't care.
time.
I feel like most of my friends call me MJ. That's how they know me. That's my nickname. So everyone goes off of J is the middle.
See, that
Because
would make sense. Be-
my J is my maiden name, so my nickname had always been MJ, kind of like in school and like college and stuff.
Because I was a
So
little
just going by
confused
MJ.
when so I just knew it as Marianne George, and then when the person
Hmm.
Naomi who I was talking to like communicated, I guess maybe your
Yeah.
manager, she was like MJ. I was like, where's the J come from in this? I don't.
Yeah.
But I was like, I just assumed, but that's funny. So for
That's why in on my IG I now have to put like MJ so that people know it's me.
yeah, it
It's like
was funny.
because now when I introduce myself, I always say like, yeah, I'm MJ, not realizing that people don't actually know who I am. Like they don't have my actual name, so they never know how to find me.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's
But
too
yeah,
funny. So for people, speaking of finding you and stuff, for people that aren't familiar with who you are, can you give a little backstory on who you are, your background, and everything?
sure. Yeah, so I am originally, well, right now I'm part of a group called Maverick City Music. So that's probably what most people probably have seen me from or know me from. My friends and I are in this group and this collective. It's really been awesome. But I'm originally from New York. I now live in the
Where in New
Midwest,
York?
out in St. Louis. Grew up in like the border of Queens and New Hyde
Okay.
Park, and now my family like moved further out east in Long
Where on Long
Island, so they're
Island?
still out there.
I'm a Long Island boy, born
So
and raised. So
they,
that's why
where
I'm
are you
from
from?
Northport, but like the Huntington area.
Okay, okay, we're a little bit east of.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, we're a little
Okay.
west of that. We're in
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Roslyn
Absolutely.
area. So
It's
I
just
went to the Herrick School
okay. It's
District.
such a
Yeah.
small world, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't know you're
Yeah.
from New York. That's awesome. Oh, that's why you're EST,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So so yeah, that's where I basically grew up there. And then when I got married in 2017, I moved out to the Midwest. And so we live out in St. Louis now. We don't know if this is going to be our home forever, but we're here for now. My husband works here at a hospital. And so yeah, I've been singing. I've been a worship leader for as long as I could remember. I mean, I started in my Indian church in New York um, from the time I must have been in middle school. Like I started singing at church, and then I ended up like staying there till I was 24, and basically became a worship director and a leader there. And then after that, I moved. And since I've come here, I've been less involved in worship in the sense like on a more like excuse me
Sure.
official level. But I volunteer worship leader at my it's an AG church and Assemblies of God church, and it's been really different from the way that I grew up in my Indian church, which was way more charismatic. This is definitely less charismatic, but it's been really awesome because my husband and I are both from more charismatic backgrounds, so we bring a sense of like um, just newness and freshness to the worship scene in our church, and we've been kind of doing that. And yeah, and then I started getting affiliated with Maverick in 2019, and been doing writing camps and then featuring on some of the
Yeah.
recordings, and now I'm a full-time songwriter with them, so
That's
it's really
amazing.
awesome. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I I'm originally like never planned on doing this full time, so it was just a hobby of mine to like lead and stuff. And I traveled a little bit here and there within my community to like feature at conferences or to lead at conferences. But my main job was I had gotten my master's in 2018 in counseling. So that was what I
Wow.
was planning on doing. Yeah. So that's like I'm a board certified counselor. That's like what I was planning on doing. 2019 was the year that kind of changed everything for me.
Sure.
Getting affiliated with MAV. It wasn't even called, I think it started to be called MAV towards the end of 2019, but the beginning of 2019 it didn't have a name, and so we were just a bunch of friends and kind of just writing songs. It was really cool. It was really awesome
So how
what
did
it's
you get
become now.
affiliated with them? How did you say it's a bunch of friends? Did you like? Did you guys obviously you didn't grow up together because you're all from different parts? Like I know Aaron
No.
is from the Bronx, right? And like like, but then
Aaron's
everybody.
from Jersey.
Oh, Jersey. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Aaron's from Jersey. No, Naomi is from. I don't remember if it's Brooklyn or the Bronx, but
Okay.
she's from one of those places. But I don't always heard of Naomi. I had known of Dante and Aaron through EJM, Eddie James Ministries. So
Everybody's
I've known of them.
connected to Eddie James. Is I guess the
Everyone's
story.
connected to Eddie James. I was a huge fan of Eddie James. Like I loved his music. I loved his stuff. So I've seen him live, and I remember like Dante being one of the main like feature or leaders, vocalists at the time. And I remember seeing Aaron. But like I'd always known of them through from a distance, never really became friends with them. And then when I moved here, we had formed a friendship with a really good friend of ours who was also with EJM previously. And then he had told us about Dante as well. And Aaron was friends with them. And so we had kind of already had connections to people. And it was just it's so funny. Like God really orchestrates people and relationships and paths in a very like interesting way. And I had already been affiliated with Bethel, who, for people who don't know, Mav has like a small affiliation to Bethel. And I had already been affiliated with Bethel a little bit and had met people there. And so it all kind of came together in 2019 where everyone was just kind of like, oh, I know MJ, or I know her from this, and I met her through this. And we finally all kind of met in the beginning of 2019, January. I met Chandler, Dante, Aaron, Tony, Nate, all at the same time. And then by June, I had met Naomi. I'd known Alton since 2018 and at Bethel, because I'd gone to Bethel for a worship school, and I met him there. And he was the first person to tell me but it didn't have a name, but he was like, hey, my friend Tony Tony's our co-founder, by the way, Tony Brown.
Okay.
And he was like, my friend started doing these writing camps, like, but it's invite only. It's kind of like this really chill thing. It's like a few people. Like, I would love to tell him about you and maybe you can come, but there's no promises. And I was like, I don't even consider myself a songwriter, so it's totally fine. Like, I don't really care. It's totally fine. He never even ended up telling Tony, I don't think, but I ended up doing a cover of one of the songs Tony wrote. And that's how I tagged him in the post, and that's how we ended up connecting.
Wow.
That was in
That's
2018.
interesting.
That was in 2018. And then in 2019, we all met at Chandler's live recording because I had done a cover of one of Chandler's songs. And he asked me to come and feature on their church's album.
Wow.
So then when I went, Nate was featuring on the album. Dante was also doing some stuff like as an opener. And then Aaron was like, I think produced a lot of it, or like played on it and arranged a lot of the songs. So that's how I met all of them. It was a very like, and I already had affiliations with Bethel, and Tony's affiliated with Bethel. And so I feel like they also knew of me through that. So it was like just very layered kind of way of
a whole web of connection.
Right, exactly.
So
it gives context, because it's just like it's how you knew that God was in it from the beginning.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Try.
Sure. So what's really fascinating is actually twice you said in that in that statement that people saw your covers, and it's actually really interesting. The power of social media is
yes,
because I mean, and your story, it's not like you're saying, oh, in 2007 this happened, 2005 this happened, 2000. It's like 2 years ago, barely. So what's fascinating is like the whole debate of, oh, is it too late on social media? Is it, like, is that's what's interesting. Like, oh, is Instagram dead? Is it even worth me posting a cover to Instagram? And
no,
that's amazing.
I mean, Tony still, like, I would even go to say, like, I have sent stuff to Tony before of people, and I'd be like, dude, this person is great. Like, his job, he's kind of like a talent scout also. He's looking out to see who is like, who has it, who has the anointing, who has the talent, who has the character to really carry something like this. And obviously now it's so different because everybody knows who we are. But at that time, like, he really didn't have a big name to hide behind, like Maverick City. But so he was just kind of going off of his intuition and kind of just trusting honestly, like we always say, he's low-key kind of discerning and prophetic in that way, because he knew the people without really knowing people. Like, he didn't really know me when he invited me out, but it just so happened like my story is so similar to Dante's story, to Naomi's story, where we all kind of felt like misfits in our own world, and now we're Mavericks. Like, we're kind of breaking walls down and just kind of like doing what we've always felt we were called to do, and we're doing it together. And that could not have been planned, like, it was not something planned. Like, and so Tony, he still kind of like peruses through social media and will find people and kind of like, feel drawn to them and ask them to come out and record. So we have a tribal recording. There's a song that just came out called Still Holy today, actually. Tribal did a collaboration with Mav, And a few people that are featured on there were people that Tony had like messaged and like started like invited to a camp, or they applied to a camp and came on. And so it is, I think the power, it's still very alive.
Sure.
Like social media is still very alive in that
Yeah.
way. But I had been doing covers for as long as I can remember, like since middle
Yeah.
school. Like I'd always done covers. So it's not like, to me, it feels like very new to be pushed into a lot of this now. Like, but in reality, I had been like working towards just like building my gift and my,
Sure.
talent in that way for a
It's like
long
that
time.
whole icebergs, thing. Like you only see the 10% that everybody
Mm-hmm.
sees. Wow, and from 2019 to now, she's had all this tremendous problem. Well, it's like, well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's really been all these years in the working. So that's fascinating.
Yes, it has. It has been. It's been a lot of hard work. And I think I don't want to ever discredit that. Of course, like the Lord is the one that gave me all these opportunities, but I definitely like feel like it's something we also have to do
I
our
couldn't
part,
agree more.
of
Absolutely,
like working
100.
hard and stewarding our gifts
I think
well.
that people don't realize how much of it is actually hard work versus luck. Like because
Yeah.
I
And
even
even like,
take out luck. Like so you know what I mean. But like divine intervention. But
yes,
like
I
it's
know what
like
you mean.
you
Yes,
you
yes.
like had you not been working for all those years to practicing
Yeah.
your craft, you might not have been good enough
Hmm.
when you covered that song, and you still would have covered it, but your talent might not have been there. So it's like it's all these things pointing up to it. It's amazing, that work and just putting yourself out there like you did. That blows my mind that it was from a two social media posts that you are where you are today. Like
Yeah.
that is so inspiring because you never
Yes,
know who's
it
looking.
is.
You never know who's
You never
watching.
know, exactly. And I even want to go further to say like that applies to spiritual things too, because it's like being faithful in the small things. Like I grew up in an Indian church, no clue that this would be where I would be, like not even a few years later. Like, but I really believed that my commitment to the Lord was something I really wanted to take seriously, because I felt like it was important. Even though it was a small church, like even though it was like in the grand scheme of things, it was like a small Indian church. Like it didn't feel like super important in the eyes of the world, right? But when you're faithful in the small things, I
Yeah,
really believe God elevates you
absolutely.
to bigger and better and beautiful things. Not even better, but like
Yeah.
beautiful things. Just like he elevates you and sees that in you. And so even if it means like, you don't always get the approval or like the acceptance from people who look like you, or the acceptance of people your age or whatever, like I struggled with a lot of that. And I think that's the bottom of the iceberg that nobody sees. Like now it's like, oh yeah, people see the influence and they see the following and they see the popularity of Maverick City, and it's like, oh, everyone wants to like be your friend. But there was a time where it was very lonely,
I
and
agree.
that was because of the choices. That was because of the choices we've made to stick to what and better, which is Christ.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that doesn't just apply to our work and stewarding our gifts, but also just our spiritual lives and being faithful in the small things that we're
Yeah.
given.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk to you about the Indian church for a second. So,
Yeah,
Indian
sure.
church isn't like I'm not familiar with that in the sense of, is it English speaking Indian
Mhm.
church or is it Indian speaking church or
Yeah. So, well, I think with my church, I was lucky enough to go to a church that did prioritize like English speaking services, only because we had such a large majority of youth. And so we fought for that. And I think that's something like the people before me had fought for us to like be able to grow up in a church that was culturally like, to us, like we were surrounded by culture, our Indian culture, but
mm,
also like gave us the American culture of like, listening to services and sermons in
mm,
English, like watching our pastors preach in English. And so we did grow up for a long time, like not having the English speaking or having like a translation, like someone giving a translation, which is always nice, but it doesn't hit the same way as like an English
yeah,
speaking
absolutely.
sermon would have been. There's a lot of things that get lost in the translation. But yeah, I was really blessed enough to grow up in a church that really valued that and like really wanted us to grow in our spiritual gifting, which is not the case with most Indian churches. Like I feel like God really blessed me and my family in staying in this church and like just being able to grow spiritually and there, even in worship. Like they gave us so much freedom and room, and my pastor and stuff. And I'm releasing an album in this summer, hopefully, and we do a documentary at my old church. And And we kind of talked to my pastor, who's been such a big role in my life, and just kind of like encouraging us spiritually, and growing like our knowledge of God and who God is and stuff. But that's not always the
Sure.
case with Indian churches. Like I know friends who are in Indian churches right now, and they're still speaking our native tongue, and
Yeah.
they're not like adjusting for the youth.
So I was curious about that because the reason I was asking is really related to the music in the aspect of like I was curious if like they would translate popular songs to the the native
Mm-hmm.
language, or how that worked, because a lot of churches will
Mm-hmm.
play other churches' songs, but when you're not singing the native
Right.
language, I was curious. So did you guys just sing in English then, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we had like a separate worship session for like a separate worship, which for like so I'm South Indian, so our native tongue is Malayalam. And so they have like a Malayalam worship service. And then they would stay for the English service too. But there was always this like disconnect, because it just didn't feel like they would connect with our worship, or we would connect with their worship, when really it should be like this
Sure.
translatable thing, like towards the. So we finally have like English. We have separate services now in that church. I don't go there anymore because I moved, but they have like a separate Malayalam service where they have like a speak in our native tongue, and then they'll have like our main service in English. And so they'll like, there's nothing in my native tongue for that service. Whereas before it would kind of be a blend of both, where they would do like a few songs in this
Mm-hmm.
language and then a few songs in English. Um, but there would always be like, this is for the youth, or this is for the adults, because it was
Separating the
like
two,
so
yeah, for sure.
separated by language. Yeah, it gets really hard when you're living in
Sure.
two cultures, like, and but our church did such a beautiful job of preparing us like for life in America, and what that looks like culturally, what that looks like spiritually, like, well, how does our faith translate outside of
Yeah.
India, like, what outside of our Indian parents, like. So it's been really, really like, I've been so blessed, and I always say that, like, my church is not perfect, but just so blessed with like the opportunity to be part of a church that valued our the upcoming
Sure.
generation, because to be honest, that's the generation that's leading the way,
Absolutely.
like always.
Absolutely.
So they really made that a priority, and even now they like changed the name of our old name used to have like the word India or Indian in it, and now they changed the name of the church to welcome all types of people, and which is really groundbreaking stuff for us culturally. So super cool what God's
Yeah, that's
doing.
amazing. I'd love to know what your family thought. So you said that a lot of people struggle with, especially creatives, like going into the creative industry. People are family members and friends are scared. Like, oh, there's no money in the music
Mm-hmm.
industry. You're one in a million, and people are scared. Family members and stuff, if they don't have the dream, are scared for that. So I'm curious if that's something that you had to deal with or had to walk through, or if your family was super supportive, or how that just happened for you.
Yes. So my family had always like propensity towards music, because I had, from a very young age, like my mom, first of all, both my parents were worship leaders in their church. So, and the church that my parents first went to and grew up in was like not just an Indian church. So it was like different ethnicities and races and cultures and stuff. So it was all English. So they learned how to speak English pretty early on, and did English worship. So when I was in my mother's womb, she would sing and sing over me, and kind of just like always spoke truth and life over me. And so I'd always grown up listening to music, because my entire family is very
Oh
musical.
wow, cool.
And so yeah, so every like get together, every
Yeah.
holiday always ended with a time of like prayer or worship, and everyone would get out their instruments and play, and it was just like this very like Brady Bunch-esque like worship service. It's like, it was really cool. It's like part of the building blocks of my whole musical journey and career, because I like grew up like that. So they always knew that music was part of me, like, and I played violin. Instruments just came so easily to me. I had an ear for music, so I would quickly get things and pick up instruments, not knowing what the notes of what I'm playing is, but just like figuring it out on my own. But it was never a viable career option for me, and I think I even knew that growing up. Like, it was not something I was encouraged to pursue a career in, but it was always something I was encouraged to do in relation to worship and to Christ and to spiritual matters and church. Like, they always encouraged me and pushed me in that direction. So it was always meant to be a hobby. Um, but then I think with what had happened with Mav, like I think now they're at a point where they're just like shocked. They just like cannot believe what's happening. And I think even when I told them about like we were featured on a billboard in Times Square and like that was like a big deal. Like so that was crazy. Or even just like getting to tell them the pastors or people that they've listened to all their
Wow,
life, their
yeah.
sermons, like
Sure.
meeting them or like or they don't fully understand this world, but connecting them to the people that they've listened to or they've known or heard has been for them an eye opener. And I think now that they're going around, people are coming up to them and being like, we are so inspired by what your daughter is doing. Because I did not grow up seeing somebody who looked like me kind of navigating this
Mm.
space. And so now also being a woman on top of that, like, now to hear and see people tell my dad and mom, like, we're so inspired watching your daughter. I think for them, it's like now solidifying this, like, okay, she's meant to do this. And like, God is on her life, like God's favor is on her life for this. But in the beginning, I had to really pray because I felt led to do this and pursue it. So all of 2019, I kind of like experimented and just kind of like song wrote and didn't find a job essentially. Like I didn't find a job. And so I think it came to a point where like even John's parents, my parents were like, okay, so when are you gonna start like looking for a job? And I was like, I need like to just fast for a bit and just figure out because I felt really called to do this, but the security of having a job was so appealing to me. Just like the financial security, like the structure of it. I'm a person that loves structure, and um, I knew I had a feeling in my heart God was calling me to do this, but I was really scared to step out into it. And then once I prayed about it. I was like, okay, God, if I don't hear something clear from you, I'm just gonna assume you don't want me to do this. I'm gonna start looking for jobs tomorrow. Literally the next day, I get a call like asking about whether I can write for a church.
Wow.
So I knew in my mind it was God's way of providing for me and kind of assuring me that I'm going to take
Sure.
care of you every step of the way. Because for me, like the money, I think the risk of like not having that secure income, like really scared me.
Sure.
And for songwriting, and it takes a while. Like it takes 2-3 years for you to actually like build like some sort of like income, I guess, that's more consistent. And I had no experience in this field. I'm not like a Naomi or a Dante, like, and who've been in this industry for a while. So I felt really insecure, like a fish
Mm.
out of water. And I remember asking the Lord, like, okay, if you want me to do this, I need like to know that my parents are going to be on board with this because their support was so important to me. And so once I, as you recall, they were pushing me to get a job. So when I was like, when I approached them and I was like, hey, I felt very clearly from the Lord that this is something um, that I really feel like God's calling me to do. Like, I wanted to just let you know about it and ask for your prayer. They were all like, okay, like, we trust you. If you've heard from the Lord on this, then we trust that God's speaking to you. And so not very long afterwards, stuff with maps start happening. And
Interesting.
so they were like confirmed. They were super like, okay, we trust you. Like we trust that God's speaking to you. And then right after that is like when all these things started happening. And so they like are seeing it now and they're super like, wow, this is amazing. God is clearly on your life. And they're very much understanding, even more understanding of it now. So they have like they're supporting me through this whole thing. And for us culturally, I think even talking about it sometimes like, why do you even need to ask your parents, like you're your own person? But culturally, their support and their prayers are so important to us. And parents like in our culture like are a really big part of our lives, like. And so their support was something John and I like needed for us to move forward and to know that God was in this. And so yeah, just hearing from them, that was like a big confirmation for us. And it's been beautiful ever since. They've been my biggest support and prayer like warriors in this season. So
I'd agree with that.
super,
It's
super
funny
cool.
how, timelines are slightly different, but like it's a similar
Mm-hmm.
situation with my family. Like I told them, "Hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to drop out of college. I really think I'm supposed to be a musician," like, and
Yeah.
that was a scary conversation to have for everybody, and
Mm-hmm.
they were like, "Okay, if you think this is what you really are supposed to do."
Yeah.
And then once they realized, like, hey, I'm not just a bum, playing video games in the basement, like, and I was actually really working. And then once they started to
Yeah.
see things actually, like you said, happen,
Happen.
it's like that, like, but for a while now they've been, but like even pretty after the beginning. But now it's funny. Now, like, my parents will be like, like, dropping out of college is one of the best decisions you ever made. You know what I mean? Like, now they see it. And my parents are super supportive now, and they have been for a long time. But it's funny. I think at least for myself, too, sometimes I needed, like, we need these little, like, droplets, you know, like, throughout our career. It's like, you know, okay, to keep you going, you know what I mean? It's like... to build the faith that it's gonna keep working out, because although it's hard, and like you said, like, you know, to keep doing these things without the potential payoff you're seeing, you know, it's you're just kind of sowing the whole thing in faith, you know.
And even like you were saying, like sometimes, like there were moments when I was in college and like I was like, I really feel like God's wanting me to do this, but I don't feel like the time. Like my parents would always discourage it and push me to do my education and push for that instead. And I'm like, the timing of God was so perfect, because I definitely would not have made it, like, had I tried at that time. Like they knew, like they didn't even know that they knew, but they did know, like, because God gave them that wisdom to say yes at the right time, or like to support us at the right time for this. Like I could not have done this had I not been married. Like this, my husband works, so like we have like something to lean back on, like if anything happens to my career, like, you know, so like it just worked out so perfectly that God like gave them wisdom to know that the time to say yes and no to this. Like, and so they were always encouraging of me to pursue music and to grow in my craft, but were like very hesitant to let me pursue it too early, which I don't think they realized at the time what they were doing. But now, like, it's just like, for me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, thank God for my parents' guidance and wisdom earlier, because I would have struggled. It would have been really difficult for me. Whereas now I feel like God's just opening these doors, and I'm just like sitting there like, what is happening? Like, I don't know what's happening. And it's like crazy and wild. Everyone's story and journey is so beautiful and so different and intentional, like, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. It's amazing, man. And I'm curious what your husband does. Is he a doctor at the hospital or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My wife.
He's a pediatrician.
Very cool. My wife is a labor and delivery nurse.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. He works in a children's hospital right across the street. So it's been really cool.
That's really cool.
It's been really awesome.
Yeah.
And there's so much, even with his story, like there was so much timing, like the timing of him, like even residency, like all that, like it wouldn't have worked. Like if we had, like, this is the perfect time.
Hey, I hear you.
It was just so intentional. It was so intentional. Like John in the beginning of 2019 was not in residency yet. So he got to actually join me and do like a bunch of camps with Mav, met everyone in Mav, which was important to me because Mav is family to me, and seeing, like, having them meet John and have John be such a integral role in the grassroots of what Mav was, like, he's part of the family. Like, nobody sees him in, like, now, but he's known, and he plays like freaking Call of Duty with like Tony every other day, and he's right in front of me. He's like playing Call of Duty right now. But he's just like a big part of our lives, like in Mav. So it gives me so much comfort knowing that he got to like experience. He's like a completely disconnected part of my ministry, or it's not my ministry, it's his too, you know? So it's really cool, like, that he got to be a part of that with me in the beginning, which would not have happened, like, had he not gotten into residency when he did. Like, you know, he took a year off, and that was a whole thing culturally because it was like taboo, but it worked out. Like, it was just so perfect.
So one of the final questions that I have for you, because I want to be respectful of your time and everything.
Let's go. Let's do this all day.
Hey, you know what? I have the time, so let's
do it. Yeah, I'm down.
All right. Well then, speaking of songwriting, you mentioned songwriting a lot. So I'm curious in your perspective on this, and maybe I'll share my perspective after yours. But a lot of songwriters see their songs as their babies, you know, and it's hard for them to disconnect from work, like themselves, you know, like you are Maryanne, you know, but you're also a songwriter. And I think that a lot of artists, especially like newer artists, before you kind of get that disconnect. But I've seen artists that have been there for 20 years and they still can't find the disconnect of like, no, you're Maryanne, or I'm Jacob, and I'm a songwriter. My songs are not me, you know. So if people don't like a song, it's not a reflection of me. I love your opinion on like how you deal with that, like disconnecting from work maybe and yourself, or if a song flops, versus, or if a song is amazing, like how to not let that get to your head either way.
Yeah. So I'm actually like, I don't believe they're disconnected.
Okay.
So
That's
I'm a
totally
believer
fine.
in that I don't actually think they're really disconnected. I think that there are going to be songs that people don't connect with and
Sure.
they don't like.
Sure.
And I mean, like, not everyone's gonna like me. I think we especially now, like especially with the world of social media, there's this need to be liked by
Sure.
everybody. And it's actually, to me, not
Feasible,
what
like possible.
Jesus, it's just not possible. It wasn't even what happened to Jesus.
I was
Like,
just about to say that
not
even there
everybody,
was a lot of people that didn't like
yeah,
him.
like, yo, everybody hated that man. I don't think anybody realized it's like everybody hated him. So I'm like,
He
I
would get
never
12
did
likes
it.
on social media.
Right. He would be like 0 followers probably. Like
Well,
maybe 12
if the
followers.
12 for the
12
disciples,
followers, 12 disciples, exactly.
13 for
But
Paul.
literally, like, I think we even like something that, MLK Jr.'s daughter says this a lot. Like, everybody now loves MLK, but when he was alive, like, he did not have the support of a lot of Black people. Even like
Interesting.
people who should have supported him did not. Like, they thought he was a sellout, because he chose to not be violent, like things like that. Wow. Where we're not always going to understand the gravity of the decisions we're making right now. Like, and so to me, and this has been something I've had to work through with my own songwriting because I was so new to it. I am like a person that really believes that you live your life and the songs will come. Like, so it's just like, I just recently announced that I am pregnant, which is really exciting.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And so I fully intend on walking into this whole season of, being a mom and not putting the pressure on myself to create songs, but like really just live my life and let the songs come naturally. So like, what is it that the Lord is telling me this season? Write it down. Like, give myself the space later on to be like, wow, like this is what the Lord is saying me. He's giving me a fresh revelation of this. Like, not necessarily like working so hard to create something, but like really just letting it flow naturally. Now that's not the way for everybody, but for me, it felt the most organic because I tend to get into this need to strive or like to create something that's really good and is going to make it like, and then it takes out the purity or the organic nature of songwriting for me, which is like what I love. So for me, it's like, I will always be, yes, I'm a mom. I'm going to be a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a student of things, and I'm a songwriter, and it's just part of who I am. So if somebody doesn't like my song, I don't take that as like, they don't like me. I take that as like,
Absolutely.
they don't connect to it, and they might connect to something better. And there are songs I don't really necessarily like or love and connect to different things. So it doesn't hit me as much as it probably would hit someone else. But I've also grown into that perspective of like, I'm not a person that needs to be liked all the time, and I'm okay.
Well,
with
I don't
that.
think anybody should be, honestly.
I mean, that's where I'm like, I just feel like it's just kind of like something I've worked really hard at kind of doing and changing my perspective on. Like, so even opinions, like if you give me an opinion, I'm trying to like understand. Like, I want you to understand, like a random person I'm telling myself, like, I want you to understand I'm doing this because of this, this, and this, but I totally understand if you don't agree. Like, it's totally fine. But I'm going to do what I feel like God's calling me to do, or I'm going to do or write whatever I feel like God's calling me to write, or, things like that. Like, I don't really disconnect them in my mind because I feel like it is like, it is part of me to write things and to tell my story. That's why I'm a big believer in also not writing songs that necessarily make a lot of sense. Like, so for example, like I think especially with Christian songwriting, I think there's like this need to resolve things in a song. And I don't necessarily believe it always needs to be resolved. I think it's just life to sometimes have unresolved things, like, or deal with unresolved feelings. And obviously, like, I think we have a duty as worship leaders for congregational worship to point them to something else. But like, as a singer songwriter for art, like, I don't really necessarily believe that everything needs to be resolved. And that's the beauty of art, right? Like it's where you are right now, like where you are presently. And
Yeah.
I was just in LA, and Pastor Judah just did a whole sermon on this. Like, where are you now? Like, where are you now? Not where you want to be. Not praying from a place of where you want to be, but like actually meeting God in the dirt. Like, and he gave this story of like how there's this whole story in the scripture where a woman was caught in adultery or prostitution, and they bring her, the Pharisees and all those people bring him out to the square to stone her, and then Jesus stands and kneels with her in the dirt and is like kneeling. And it doesn't say in scripture how long he was there for, but it said that he was long enough for each person to like walk away, like until, so it's like he sits with us in those places, right? So I think those places and spaces are just as important.
Yeah, I mean, how many of the Psalms are written from a place of like, yo, is
exactly.
this theology or is this a...
Yes, exactly. It's
pure emotion.
No, like I also don't feel like, you let your emotions control everything. Obviously not, but just being honest with ourselves, I think we can get a lot further in life if we really confront some of that stuff and are actually honest with some of the things we're feeling, instead of masking them behind religiosity or this theology, like that we need to be a certain type of way to approach the Lord,
Yeah.
That was a long answer.
I appreciate the answer.
But I'm a big believer
absolutely.
in that.
And I agree with what you're saying. So what I was saying though is a sense of more of like, I think artists care too much, like we were saying, care too much about opinions of other people, and it blocks them, I think, from songwriting, honestly, because you want to write this next hit song, but I agree. I think it's a collection. I totally agree with it. It's a collection, and if you look at what's funny is so many times, myself included, like I try to write from a place of, okay, how can I make this what I'm going through relatable, right? And if you look at these hit songs and these songs that do well and the songs that touch me, it's super specific. It's like, oh, I met this person on 4th Street. I've never been to 4th Street. I don't even know where 4th Street is. You know what I mean? But it's like, because it's so true to that person, you relate to the truth of the song rather than the fact of like,
I think it translates.
Exactly. But I think as songwriters, it's at least for myself, I've noticed, and it's so easy to get caught up in, okay, how can I make this relatable to so many people? Because I want to touch so many people, right? And you get, but then it doesn't become it's no longer as authentic because you're trying to reach the masses. Whereas if it's, it's super fascinating. Like, and it's also, it's super interesting. And I'd love to know your perspective on like, the success of songs, quote unquote. But like, it's really fascinating. The song that maybe is, quote unquote, my most popular song is a song that I'm like, oh, really? Like, I don't love the way that sounds. I've grown so much from there. Why don't you listen to this song, right? But it's the authenticity, I guess, that people relate to of that song, whereas opposed to where like I'm like, everything's so much better in this song. Why don't you listen to this song? Kind of, you know what I mean? But people don't care. It's the authenticity. I'd love to know if you have anything to comment on that.
Yeah, I feel like, I feel like I think we all have a song. Like, we all have a story, we all have a song, and it's important for us to share our song and nobody else's. And so that's why someone like an Alec Benjamin, like, I'm sure you've heard of him. He's like, he writes very specific. It's like, I did this girl's geometry homework. It's just like super specific, but it relates to you and it draws you in. And I think like we're all a lot more similar than we like to give ourselves credit for. And I think once we start owning our truth and owning up our stories, people see that and respect it and love it. I think they just really like to hear
that. Is super fascinating, because that, when you say that, actually something clicked in my mind. It's like, because I mean, you talk about some of the greatest songwriters, I think, personally, of our generation. Like, you talk about the Ed Sheerans, who writes for everybody, Taylor Swift, who writes for everybody. Like, these people just write songs like it's no big deal, right? But then, and they're super specific usually. Like, I'm like, how did she get away with putting that line in there? Like, it's so specific. But then when you say that, it actually kind of reminds me of like reality TV or like vlogs. Everybody's so interested. It's like rubbernecking when you're on the highway. Oh, I want to see what happened with that accident. Where they text it. Everybody wants to know everybody else's business, and I guess that's why these authentic songs.
Why do you think Keeping Up with the Kardashians is so popular?
Exactly.
It's because it's real. It's like for the most part. I mean, I'm not going to tell you the authenticity of what's happening in the Kardashian family, but it's like reality. It's real family life,
and people want to see other people's.
People want to see how other people deal with it, and it's just like it honestly inspires me to hear a story like that, like to hear like Alec Benjamin singing about something super specific, or even Taylor Swift. I loved her last album. I just love hearing the way that people well, I'm fascinated by that personally. I'm just fascinated by people's process, and so just hearing how they like tell their story is super fascinating to me. Like how they tell their story, how they get through something. It brings me inspiration. It gives me context. It makes me respect them. It's super cool.
So in addition to Alec Benjamin, who would you say you're really impressed with and enjoying this songwriting lately?
I'm a huge fan of John Bellion. I think he's like
fellow Long Islander.
Favorite. He's a fellow Long Islander. I was about to say he's a fellow Long Islander. He's amazing. He is he's probably one of my favorite artists. Alan Stone is another one I really love. I'm a big fan of like soulful music. I mean, there are even like some songwriters within the Christian space that I love. John Guerra, like I love his songwriting. Just honest things. I just love honest songwriting. Like Dante is one of my best friends. He's one of my good friends. He is one of my favorite songwriters I've ever worked with. Like just honest.
Well, how about
songwriting?
Their last album, the last album that you guys did with Elevation, right? So if we talk about that, like Old Church Basement,
exactly.
I'm on a run. And I'm listening to this song, and I'm like, yo, this is super specific. Like we're it's even the opening specific track.
And it's funny.
Sorry, but like it's like so like. I used to have a friend. I think I was talking to Aaron about this in our conversation. I was like, I lost you for a sec.
Yep.
But it was like,
I think my manager. Sorry.
Do you need to get that?
Well, I think she thinks I didn't get on.
I did email her because I did email her but it was at it was 45 minutes.
That's probably what it is.
So
I'll just text her.
All right.
I'll text her.
But I was talking to Aaron about this, and I was saying like that song is so super specific, like talking about playing guitars in the basement with his friend Josh or whatever his name is. Like, wow, it's so super specific, but it's such a great song, and it's like I don't even know the guy he's talking about, but I feel like I do. You know what I mean?
And even like Old Church, not Old Church, but Talking to Jesus.
Yeah, sure.
There's a part where he's like, and she says, Brandon singing it, and he's actually not even. Like Pastor Steven wrote the line of like, I have 3 of my own now, which is 3 boys, and he only has 2 kids. Brandon only has 2 kids. So it's like listening to Brandon sing about Pastor Steven, which is so funny. Like it's super specific, but man, those songs
for
hit.
Sure.
Like they hit because you're thinking about your own story and like how you met Jesus and how you started seeing your parents start to do. So it just brings people into that
That's so fascinating.
Honesty.
It's so fair.
Honesty is the story everyone wants to hear. Like it's just what everyone wants to hear. And I think worship music has become what I was telling you earlier of this need to like resolve or to be something. Like be like, okay, we want to be better at this. Like that's essentially what is like we want to, Lord, like help us be this. We want to be this. Like, but I think we miss the songs of the songs, like the songs,
absolutely.
like that we were saying, like that's what I think like these songs are like, kind of just like the songs of, at least that's to me what I feel like Mav is riding off that, because we're breaking that norm of like the need to be perfect.
And just about to say that
about,
I think writing in that style, I think creates this facade of perfection, where I think that in reality, none of us, well, in true reality, none of us are. And it's sometimes hard to relate because you're like, oh man, like, Maryanne, she's always talking about how great, like her relationship with you God is. And it's like, in all reality, we all struggle with everything. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think that it really opens the door. And I would even debate the fact that I kind of feel like I see the whole Christian industry kind of going in that direction. But I think
it is. I was saying that too. I feel the same
I'd
way.
even debate though, the I don't know what the word, society maybe as a whole is leading towards authenticity, because like you want to talk about like how TikTok is the biggest app. It's like, because like it's literally a person on their phone filming like this. There's no filter, there's no editing. It's true authentic human nature, and we are all so drawn to that. you know, and how it's
Yeah.
so.
It's so fascinating. Like it's so funny you mentioned TikTok because that's like my new favorite app. Like I don't use like I'm not using it, but to me, I feel like TikTok has become way more honest than Instagram
100%.
has
I would
become in that way.
completely agree. Completely agree.
And so I like it more because
Yes.
I'm like going on TikTok and I relate to this. Like, so like someone was even saying like, what is one thing you do that's so immature that you continue to do? It's a TikTok, right? And then there was this like, it's a duet with another artist, and he's like, he literally gets out of bed, and you know when you like get out of bed for the first time, and you're like,
Yeah.
ah, and you make all these noises, and you're like, so he does that, and I'm just like, oh my god, like we do that all the time, but nobody
Of that
thinks about it. We
100%.
just think, you know, like it's just the honest stuff. And I think, especially with this pandemic now, like since the pandemic, I think people are just over it. Like they're just so over it. They're coming to the nitty gritty and dealing with the real crap in their lives. And they're just like, okay, it's time to deal with this.
Because you were
Like, and
stuck
it's
by
time to be
yourself for
honest
so
about
long,
things.
you realize, oh wow, I really don't like myself. I gotta change
Right.
some things.
I don't like myself. Facts. Exactly. I don't like myself. Like I really, or I don't
This aspect.
like or something, this aspect, or like I don't like this relationship,
Sure.
or I need to fix this in my marriage, or I need to fix this with my kids,
Yeah.
or I need to like, they like are just a little bit more on edge because they're all everyone's realizing this is not working, or something is not working, and it's time for us to have a
Yeah.
serious and real conversation.
I,
Even, I mean, there's a lot, there's
yeah,
race, everything,
absolutely.
all this is all
I
coming
mean,
up,
I
all
think
coming
what
out
you
now.
said about TikTok is super fascinating in the sense of like, if you could capture it to some degree in songwriting, it would be a very interesting thing. You said, you know, TikTok is capturing all the things that we all do relatively unconsciously, you know, but don't even realize it. Like if you could turn that into songs and stuff, like capturing these emotions that we all feel, but we're maybe too. That's the thing about songwriting. So often is like, oh yeah, I felt
Yeah,
that way, but like I never actually had the guts to actually say that. You know what I mean? And it's like,
say it.
oh man, which is a hard thing to do.
Yep.
That to be that vulnerable. You know what I mean? Because then you're putting yourself out there, and it's just
It is. And it's like we're writing a I don't even know if I can say this yet, but we're working on an album with Church Home in LA, and we're kind of just like, we have some artists that are going to feature on it, but it's like not your typical Christian artist. They're not Christian like in the sense that they're mainstream artists, but we're writing for them. And I think some of the songwriting we're doing is a lot more honest than our normal Mav
that's
stuff. And
really
it's like,
cool.
this is going to be really difficult for church people to hear, but it's like the real stuff of just like meeting the Lord and not feeling like, or initially like, it's like very baby Christian stuff of like, okay, like I feel like talking to Jesus isn't something I'm used to, but it feels like the safest place I've been. And it's like communicating those ideas of like
Well, because
the
how many people
reality
are
of getting
there?
to know
But you
Jesus.
know, you see these
Right,
songs that
right.
you're here, but you see these songs where they're all the way up here, and it's like, well, how
Up
did I
there,
get from
exactly.
here, or how did these people get from here? Well, that's
Hmm.
amazing. Do you have a timeline on that? I know you said you
Yeah.
can't really speak much on it, but do you have a general
I don't
timeline?
really actually know the timeline, to be honest. We're just kind of like just writing and stuff like it for it, but I don't personally know the timeline. I just know it's how it works. It's like it's something that I think is going to be the most honest thing we've ever done because we're not even like all singing it. So it's just like
Yeah,
coming from a place of like people who've actually been through literal hell and back, and just from their stories and their perspective of like, this is hard. Like life
exactly,
is hard,
exactly.
but the Lord meets us
Yeah,
in the hard. He's actually a lot more gray than black and white. Like he's a lot more gray. And so it's just like that whole concept of writing that. I think that is it's it's the stuff that I feel like God has always put on my heart to write about. And it's not always popular, especially in the Christian world, to say those things, you know? And I think everyone wants to be very like, let's all be like Jesus. But even Jesus knew, like, even Jesus knew y'all ain't anywhere
yeah.
close. Like, y'all, it's hard to be me. Like, you know, but it's like, but I think the honesty of it, I really think God like wants honest
Sure.
hearts. I think he's over it. I think he's over our pretend. Like, I think he's really over it. And I like, if even for me, I'm trying to unlearn those things. I'm like turning 30, 29, and I'm like, man, I'm still unlearning
Sure.
things, like unlearning and relearning. Like, you know, it's
When
it's beautiful when you get
Yeah,
to that
what
place.
are some? Can you talk about some of the topics that are going to be on your album that you mentioned coming out in the summer?
Yeah, so my album that I'm coming out in the summer
You
is
got
gonna
a
be,
lot
it's
going
called
on. You have
Alter.
your own album. You
I have a
have
lot.
Maverick City.
I
You
have
have
a
this
lot.
upcoming.
I'm birthing two babies. One is the album, one is an actual baby. Then we have these stuff. Like there's a lot happening in the
That's
works.
amazing.
Like Mav's doing a tour at the end of the year. We have a few albums still on the in the docket to come out. But yes, my album is gonna be more just kind of like it's a journey that I've been on for the last 6 7 years of just like it's called Altar, and just associating worship with sacrifice and what that is to me. And something, I think this is a clip that's been going around of Taya Smith. I honestly don't know how to pronounce her new name because she's married, but she's
Yeah.
with Hillsong Worship or Hillsong United. She was saying the first instance of worship that's mentioned in the Bible is when Abraham walks up Mount Moriah to sacrifice Isaac, and he tells the servant, "You stay behind. We're going to go up to worship." And that was the first time we mentioned in the Bible. And to me, that's what this whole album is kind of about. Of just like the journey, the highs and lows of it, but also how it's all for the glory of God, and how sacrifice is really the tough part of worship that nobody wants to talk about. But our lives are the sacrifice, and the songs are the sacrifice, and it's all sacrifice. Like it really is. And so that's really where this album has come from. It's been a journey that I feel like God has been teaching me for the last 6 7 years of just like, none of this is for you, this is all
Mm.
for me. And just the beauty and the
Yeah.
surrender of that, because I think it takes a lot of pressure off when you know that this is not about you or for
Yeah.
you. And so that's kind of what this album is about. And I think mentally I'm already thinking of the next project. There's no
I
like
hear
there's
that.
I'm already on to the next thing, which is something
I would
artists
love
always
to
do with,
ask your
they're
opinion
always
on
like
that actually.
accidental.
So I feel like one of the main differences about the like quote unquote the maybe the Christian industry versus the not the secular industry, I guess to put it plainly, right? Is artists that necessarily aren't maybe in the worship scene
Mm-hmm.
put out an album every couple of years, maybe every other year. Like there's like, but I notice in more so in the Christian industry, like there's a lot of music that gets put out, and I'd love to know your opinion on like I come from the mentality I want to put out as much music as humanly possible, right? Just because you never know what's gonna hit, you
Yeah.
never like or touch people
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of like hit isn't like be the one that touches people, right? You never know what people are gonna like versus
Mm-hmm.
what you like. You know, some songs I love, people hate. Some songs people hate, I love. You know what I mean? It's like so. What's your mentality of
Yeah.
like putting out music versus like I guess from maybe a marketing perspective versus like like is there too
Yeah.
much, I guess, essentially, or do you think just put as much as you can out?
No, I'm like you. I think the issue that we have as artists is like, okay, we either put out a lot and they're just like mediocre quality, or you put out less and it's like really good quality, but you suffer like the mentally being away from it. Like, because it takes so long. The process of it has taken so long that you've grown in the
Sure.
process. And so by the time it comes to actually releasing, you're mentally kind of moved on. And I've actually had a
Mm.
lot of conversations about this, and it's something they all kind of struggle with, because we want to be as um, we want to be as diligent in the art of the process of creating it, like, so the production and mixing, all that, we want to be just as diligent as we were when we wrote it. But there's so much time that passes that it's like the the desire is to be less diligent and then to start writing the next thing. And 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 so it's like it always feels a little behind when you're there mentally. But I'm a believer in that, like, we also are tend to be overthinkers.
Sure.
And so like, to me, some of the stuff we released with Mav, I'm like, this could be better, or this could do
Sure.
better. And it's, I mean, we freaking won a Billboard award, and it's obviously done amazing. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I guess it doesn't matter
Yeah.
really. We just think too much in our heads. Like,
Well, one of the things you mentioned, and I'm curious your perspective on this, was like you said like you could put out less stuff, but they'd be great, or more stuff and it be mediocre. And I'd question in the sense of like, well, who's to say it's mediocre? You know, if a song that I might think is mediocre might be like, for example, there people say to me, and I'm sure you get this, where like there are songs that I've written, I'm like, this is terrible, you know, but I release it anyway, right? Or whatever the case is. Like, people will be like, this is my favorite song of yours. I'm like, what? That song? Like, that song's whack. Like, but you know, and it's like, I don't know, who's to say it's mediocre, you know what I mean? Because like, I don't know, I just don't know the answer to that. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know either. I think that's just part of the process.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
just one of the things we deal with. Like, I think it is important to release things like in the moment when you're feeling it the most. But then think about it. In reality, you release things, and then by the time it's done mixing, all of that happens. You're mentally like kind of away from it, but then you go on tour. That's like what real artists like, you know, end up doing. They go on tour and they have to sing those songs again. And it's just like, I think the process of touring also brings you a little bit more into the feelings and the emotions of some of those things you're feeling. Like for me, I feel like I've mentally moved on from a lot of what I wrote about when I did that. And some of these songs have been like 6-7 years in mentally processing before it's been written. And so I'm already moved on, but now that I've been, since I've been pregnant, I almost find that was the thing that brought me back to some of those emotions of when I was writing. And so I feel a little bit more connected to it now because I'm kind of dealing with some of those feelings, or kind of like even that element of sacrifice. And what is my career going to look like now that I have a kid? Like, there's a sacrifice involved in that. Like, everything is still worship. Like, this is still worship. Like, you know, things like that, where I'm like, God, I think I asked God, and this is my prayer, like with anything I release, and because I've seen him do it with this record, and I intend on releasing more, but I'm asking the Lord just like, hey, like, Lord, I want to release these things, but I really want to mentally feel them too. And so give me
mentally what?
Something to hold. I want to mentally like feel them, like as I'm releasing it, you know?
Oh, wow. I see what
so give me something that I can hold on to that will bring back some of those, like, that process, so I can feel authentic as I release it, because that's the thing, you don't feel like it's as authentic anymore.
Sure. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to feel some of those feelings again, honestly, though.
Right, but I that's true. But I'm a person that really like feels like I need to feel connected to something in order to sing about it.
Yeah.
And when I feel like I've resolved it, or I've mentally moved on from it, I mean, I can, like, don't get me wrong, I can. I just feel like it's so much better when you're in the middle of it. Like, we just recorded a Juneteenth record, which we did in Atlanta, and we sang. I led with Todd Delaney, who's an amazing gospel artist, and we led a song. And I remember like feeling a very in the moment feeling as I was singing it, like just something I was dealing with emotionally. It was a really difficult week for me, and I remember just being able to lead from that place, and it felt so much more honest. Like, it felt freeing. It felt, you know, that feeling like where it was a difficult week, and it made so much sense when I got into that moment then, because I was like, okay, the Lord wanted to meet me here in this moment.
Yeah. Have you
I wanted to say something to me.
Yeah. Have you ever written a song and it means something for you now, and then like 2 years later, it's the same song, but it now has a new meaning?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, I have, and I've even written for people. I've even written songs that I felt the burden of somebody else.
Sure.
Like, so it didn't necessarily feel like my thing, but I remember writing it and being very moved and felt like a burden. And then after the song is done, I'm like, oh, I meet the person who it's for, and I'm like, this song, I feel like the Lord specifically had me write it with these people for you, and so I send it. So it's like, but then I feel like that same song is ministered to me like later on, like, you know. But that's the beauty. Oh, that's the beauty of songs. Like, I love that. It ministers to different people at different times. It keeps
including yourself.
It keeps doing its
work,
including myself. It keeps doing its job. It keeps doing its work, and it's really beautiful.
Do you ever have a hard time writing for other people where it's like hard to let go of the song and be like, oh, I kind of wish I kept this song, kind of thing?
Aw, I'm sure. Yeah, I've definitely felt that. But hey, like, I also feel like I can.
That's true. I guess you can technically cover your own song.
If I wrote it, I mean, I can. Yeah, I can always release it. That's true. And I don't hate that. I think some people feel weird about that because they're like, oh, but it was already released or already done. But I think everybody's voice and story bleeds through their actual voice. Like, their stories bleed through their voice. So it's like, it will sound different. 100%. So if you sang I thank God, and I sang I thank God, it's going to be a different
Yeah, your
song.
experiences are
Like,
gonna come through differently in it. You're gonna become
right.
from a
So
different
I'm
place.
a big believer. I'm a big believer in that. It really doesn't
I
matter.
agree.
You
I
know,
totally
it
agree.
doesn't matter.
I totally
Yeah.
agree.
So,
Absolutely. But I really appreciate you taking
yeah.
the time. This is I've really honestly been a really
Of course.
insightful conversation.
I'm so glad we got to do it.
100%. Absolutely.
And so I hope it was good. I hope you understood my heart.
Abs-
I'm a little all over the place, I feel like, as a person. So
I think we as creatives all are. So I think we all kind of meet each other wherever we are. So no, this is
yeah.
fantastic. I'm really looking forward to
Well,
hearing the album that comes out. When is it coming out? Your album?
we don't have a set date. We're doing post
Okay.
production, so we're kind of still figuring out some stuff, and hopefully it'll be released before August. That's my goal. But this summer
That's
for sure it'll be
amazing.
out. I'm
Absolutely.
hoping.
How can
Yeah.
people?
And I am also did not realize you're an artist, so I'm gonna have to listen to some of your
Oh, I
music now.
appreciate
My
that.
gosh.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for
Thank
sure.
you.
Sorry, you were saying.
No,
Go ahead.
that's all right. You can compliment me like that. I will interrupt your. I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate that. But how I was gonna say, how can people best support you and check out your stuff? Where do you want them to look?
Um, yeah, so I feel like most of my stuff I update on Instagram. So if you want, you can follow me there. It's Maryanne,
Yeah, there's a link in the
Maryanne
description to all her social
J.
media, so just click that link.
Perfect. Jeorge. And then I've you could probably find stuff on Spotify, Apple Music, stuff with Mav. It'll probably be released all through those DSPs, all those digital service providers, whatever, you know, you can find them there. It'll be on Apple Music. We're gonna have videos even come out for my album. That'll be
Nice.
on YouTube. So all that is done. We're just kind of dealing with
So
post pro right
your
now,
new
but
album is
it'll probably
gonna
be
be
out there
Marianne under Marianne J. George.
under
Okay.
my name. Yeah, it's not gonna be like under Mav or anything. It'll be
But
my
even
own
you're like
album.
when you technically
So
featured right on these like even though Mav is a collective, it's like Maverick
mhm.
City and Marianne George, right? So like they can find
Right,
that
I
stuff
know
too.
that's the weird thing. It's the weird thing about Mav that we always have to explain because we're actually technically not Mav. We're features of Maverick City Music, which is the artist. So
Which is
you'll
kind
find
of
us
funny,
on
yeah.
there
It's
too.
similar
Like
to
if you
Bethel
look up
though.
Mav.
Bethel does the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Bethel does the same
Yeah.
thing too. Yeah, they do. They do. That way it gives us room as artists to do like our own independent stuff if we want. Well, Bethel's different because it's like an actual label. So it's like a whole different vibe because they're all actually artists under
Are you
that
signed to
label.
a label
So
at the moment?
they really, no,
Wow,
no,
that's interesting. That's cool. So you're doing this
yeah,
fully
I'm not.
independently then?
Yeah. And most of us are not. I mean, I think the only people that are like Brandon and Dante. I
But
don't think
Dante
any of
just
us
signed
are
to
signed to
Brandon and Dante just signed to Bethel. So
right. So they're the only ones signed to a label.
is
But I don't think
if
anyone
you
else
had the
is,
opportunity,
to my
would you
understanding.
stay? I don't know if you've even had it. So it's but like, do you prefer staying independent or would you like to sign to a label?
Yeah, I like
I
staying
agree,
independent.
and that's
I
cool.
think
I mean, and just
I think a lot of us do. A lot of us
can I
prefer
mean
that,
I don't I want to I'd love to
honestly.
hear your like that as the last question. I mean we can end on this. Like I'd love to hear your perspective on being an
Yeah.
independent artist.
I think it's just the freedom that you have as an independent artist and like you really own what's yours. And I think that's important. And you feel, I think it's also just as important to feel responsible for what
Wow,
you release.
interesting.
And I think that's an accountability thing as well. Like I just feel like it keeps you accountable to be just as stewarding your record just as much and just as well, whereas like some fall back on certain things. And I think it keeps you stewarding well, it keeps you stewarding well, being more mindful of what you're paying for and what you're, it
Sure,
just keeps you more on top of that, where I like
I
that. I
agree.
like the independence of it because you work for it. You really do the work for it. And that is important to me. I'm a big believer
I
in that.
agree.
So,
Absolutely.
but I mean, obviously this doesn't mean I'm never going to sign something in my life. If I find like something that works for me and that the values of what I want aligns with the values of
Sure.
a record label, I'm totally open to like having a conversation. But ideally, I would like to do
I
this
agree.
as much as I can.
A lot of people say that that like the biggest thing is defined as a disadvantage. Do you find a disadvantage from being independent versus signed to a label?
I mean, the disadvantage definitely is the like, I think there's more resources that a label has that, you can be offered. But honestly, nowadays, I feel like you don't need, like, you relationship is everything.
Sure.
So if you know people, like,
Hey man, you
you'll
are
be fine.
crushing
Like,
it with no
that's,
label, so that's a testimony in itself. Like
I
if
mean,
you didn't say, I'm saying it, so let me compliment you.
thank
But it's
you.
true though. Like that's
I'm
amazing
just,
that
I
you're doing
mean,
what you're doing. Millions of plays or views and stuff on YouTube. It's like no label is amazing. That is such a testimony to where we are
I mean, it's
in
true.
in society today and what we're like, how things are so different. That's so, and you're like just starting. So look, 5 years from
Thank
now, like
you.
that's gonna be
Yeah,
so cool to see like your
thank you.
progression without a label. You know, and then, like you said, you might
Yeah.
end up finding the right one, but like to see that you've
Oh,
gotten this far, because so many artists, I think, and I was actually talking to Ty and Sydney, which are
they're
yeah,
amazing.
and we were having a really interesting conversation about like how I feel like so many artists sell themselves short because they think they need a label or they think they need
Right,
management or
right.
administration or A&R. It's like you don't learn to develop it on yourself, so you don't first of all appreciate it. Second of all, like they're not gonna. A lot of people get screwed over, and it's like
Mm,
that's really inspiring that you're still independent. That
yeah.
is so cool.
Yeah, I definitely, and someone else that I believe he's not signed to a label, I think, is Chandler, and
No
he's like
way. No
crushing.
way.
He's not. Well, I don't think he's signed to a
That's
label. No,
wild. I mean, a huge benefit.
it's possible.
100. That's the whole point of these conversations, to show people that it's possible. I couldn't agree more. And
Yeah, he was one of the people that really encouraged me to stay independent. He's a big
wow,
believer in staying independent too. So, and I mean, he just freaking got a freaking feature with Justin Bieber.
yeah,
Like, he did a whole EP with them. So it's amazing. It's amazing.
that's
If I'm wrong, I might be
crazy.
wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But from my understanding, he is not signed to a label.
And a
Like,
huge,
he might have deals maybe with
sure,
songwriting,
sure.
maybe, but not signed to a label.
And
No.
a huge benefit of that too is, while this isn't everything, like you get to keep a lot of the money. You get to keep all the money essentially, which is like that helps you
Yep.
provide for your next single or your next track.
Right.
Or
Right.
that's
Right.
amazing. That is so crazy.
Yeah, it's just about being smart. I think I also feel like artists tend to be very insecure about like that whole side, because it is a monster.
Sure.
Like, mind you, like the whole industry is a
Sure.
monster, and so like it's just like we get really insecure, and then we're like, oh my god, I need somebody to do this for me. I need a label to help me and figure this out. But really, I think if we just like were more confident and just did our research, and yes, I'm not saying we're going to make mistakes. We're not going to make mistakes. We are definitely going to make mistakes along the way, but we learn the hard way, and then we like can learn from that.
100%.
And then like it's a process. It's a process,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. So one of the
yeah.
my dad says all the time, or like jokes with me because I dropped out of college, like, hey, if I make $1,000 mistake, it's like I would have paid that for books for a semester. You know what I mean? Like it's my college education
Exactly.
like so.
It's the whole point.
Exactly.
Like, this is the whole
That
point.
is so.
Point.
That's the craziest thing I think I've heard in this conversation. That most of you guys are still independent. Like that's huge traction. That like I think people like anybody watching this would be like to love to be in the position you are, and then to know that you are independent, that they could do on their own, like like without a label. Essentially, like that's amazing. That is such a testimony and such an inspiration. So that is so cool.
I know.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
so.
you. Now, don't get me wrong. We also get help.
Oh
so
yeah, absolutely. Well, doesn't ever. You can't. No one's an island. You can't do this on your own. But that is so cool, man.
Right.
So, if you could just hang out for two.
This was a great combo.
Absolutely. So if you could just hang out for 2 seconds, I'm gonna wrap this up. But thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely thank you to Maryanne for taking the time. But if you definitely check the links in the description, there's a whole bunch of stuff, her YouTube, her Instagram, Maverick City's stuff. So definitely go check that out. Check them out on Spotify. Like you said, all the digital service providers. I like how you said DSPs, digital service. I'm gonna start using that. That's the perfect way to explain it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely go check them out, and definitely stay tuned for her album coming out soon. Thank you so much for watching.